Hello everyone and welcome to the Sussex Young Musician of the Year Final 2020, hosted by Coro Nuovo. Coro Nuovo is a mixed choir which was established in 2014 and we are based in Haywards-Heath. And in 2016, we hosted the inaugural Young Musician Prize. It has grown from strength to strength and the number of applicants has doubled over the years. The purpose of the prize is to support young musicians who are either based or have a plausible connection within the county as they go forward to study music at a conservatoire or college in this country. This year, I'm delighted to say that we received 41 entrants who recorded their audition pieces and sent them in. A panel of judges was assembled from the Coro Nuovo committee who met and whittled it down to 5 candidates who will appear in front of you this evening. I'm joined today by 3 very important members of the classical music world, not just in the UK, but also internationally. In alphabetical order, I'm delighted to welcome Katie Derham. Katie, as you know, is a wonderful broadcaster who has had a fruitful career from being a researcher for the BBC in the 90s to becoming a newsreader for ITN before returning to the BBC, and she is a wonderful face of the BBC proms. She's a musician in her own right. She's a keen violinist and appeared on the talent programme Maestro, where she had to stand in front of an orchestra and conduct in various genres. She's also a finalist in Strictly Come Dancing. And speaking as somebody who has 2 left feet, that is no mean feat. Our second judge is composer Jonathan Dove. It's a great pleasure to welcome Jonathan to the panel as well. I'm proud to say that I've had some first-hand experience of performing some of Jonathan's works and have enjoyed every aspect of them. His music has filled opera houses and delighted audiences of all ages on 5 continents. Few, if any, contemporary composers have so successfully or consistently explored the potential of opera to communicate, to create words and to enrich people's lives. Opera and the voice have been the central priorities in Jonathan's output throughout his career. His breakthrough opera Flight, commissioned by Glyndebourne back in 1998, has been produced and broadcast many times in Europe, the US and Australia. Other works take centre stage at the opening night of the proms, and in 2015, he brought the world premiere of The Monster in the Maze, a community opera commissioned by the London Symphony Orchestra, the Berlin Philharmoniker and the Festival of Aix-en-Provence, performed under the baton of Sir Simon Rattle in 3 separate translations and 3 separate productions, all within a couple of weeks, I believe. It has since been translated into Taiwanese, Chinese, Portuguese, Swedish and Catalan, and received a British Composer Award in 2016. In 2019, Jonathan Dove was made a Commander of the British Empire. Our third and by no means least judge is esteemed and internationally renowned conductor Mark Wigglesworth. He was born and bred in Sussex and is one of the outstanding musicians of his generation. He is as much at home on the opera stage as he is on the concert platform. His biography is extremely impressive, having conducted at the Royal Opera House, the Metropolitan Opera, La Monnaie in Brussels, the Netherlands Opera and Glyndebourne Opera, to name but a few. Equally, on the concert platform, he has conducted the Berlin Philharmoniker, Royal Concertgebouw Orchestra, the London Symphony Orchestra, the Boston Symphony Orchestra, the New York Philharmonic, and again, the list goes on. His recordings include a critically acclaimed complete cycle of the Shostakovich symphonies with the BBC National Orchestra of Wales and the Netherlands Radio Philharmonic. He has written articles for The Guardian and The Independent, and made a 6-part series for the BBC entitled Everything to Play For, and held positions as musical director at English National Opera. Currently, he's Associate Conductor of the BBC Symphony, Principal Guest Conductor of the Swedish Radio Symphony, Music Director of the BBC National Orchestra of Wales also, and is currently Guest Conductor of the Adelaide Symphony Orchestra. So, as you can see, he leads a very, very busy life. He has also published a book, The Silent Musician and Why Conducting Matters, with Faber and Faber, which was released in 2018. Well, from that introduction, you can see that we are extremely lucky to have such an esteemed panel joining us today. So if I can turn to you, all panelists, welcome. It's lovely to have you with us. What are you looking for today? What are you hoping to find? What are you hoping to hear during the course of this final? Can I start with, maybe I can start with you, Mark.
Well, it was a pleasure to listen to all these competitors, and a certain amount of pride that they all come from Sussex. That felt nice. I think what you want from a musician is how much of them as an individual are we learning? How much of them are they giving as a person? They're all very capable musically, but I think what I'm looking for is the story behind the notes, in a way, the personality of the performer fed through that of the composer.
Good. Jonathan, what might you be looking for?
I think I'm always hoping to feel something, to be touched by something, and sometimes it might just be the way that a musician simply loves a piece, and that you feel their love for the piece, and that does something for you. In a dramatic work, in an opera, you, I suppose, are hoping to really believe that the person is who they say they are, and that they're really doing the things they say they're doing.
Yeah. Absolutely. Do you find it's going to be difficult for some of them today? Because obviously we're not here listening and watching them live. So it's more difficult then to communicate, isn't it? When you're being filmed.
Oh, well, I think actually many of these young artists are very good at working to the camera. And I think in this social media savvy generation, they're perhaps not all strangers to the selfie. But there are big challenges in performing. It's almost, making music is such a collective thing, and to try and do this now in a time of lockdown, some musicians have found a pianist they could work with in a safe way, but there's one singer singing with an accompanist to somewhere else, and it's just impossible. And it's wonderful that they so want to perform that they will overcome these challenges. And actually, we can hear whether things don't quite go as planned, but actually that doesn't at all affect, I think, the experience of the performance.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Katie, you're used to being on the other side of the camera. What are you looking for from these performers today?
I think I echo, of course, what Mark and Jonathan are saying about how capable musicians they clearly all are, but that as a viewer, as somebody in the audience, you want to be communicated to. And I do pay tribute to their efforts in having to do this in a small room, often, as we were just hearing from Jonathan, on your own with a distant accompanist, in slightly dodgy acoustics, often being recorded on a phone. This is not the way they probably want to be judged by us. They'd want to be in a concert hall with a live audience and really be able to speak to us face to face, if you like. So all credit to them for what they have achieved, I must say. But that is what you're looking for. You're looking for communication, and you're looking for a proper performance. At this level of their musical journey, they can play well. They wouldn't have got this far. So it is that extra level of performance and communication that I think that we're all hoping for.
Excellent. Without further ado, let's sit back and enjoy the performance of our first finalist. Eliette Harris is from Brighton, and she has chosen to play part of the first movement of Prokofiev's Concerto No. 1.
My name is Eliette Harris, and I'm a violinist. I'm originally from Brighton, and I led the Brighton Youth Orchestra when I was 18. I've been so lucky to have studied with Yossi Savoni for the past 4 years, and I have a scholarship to start my studies at Guildhall School of Music and Drama this September for my Masters. I've chosen to play the first movement of Prokofiev's Concerto No. 1 for the Sussex Young Musician of the Year award. It's a very special piece of music for me. It's one of the last pieces of music I learned with Yossi, and I love how it covers so many different kind of colours and characters. It opens so ethereally, and then by the second theme it's a lot more insistent and raw, and it's a great opportunity to explore different kinds of sounds the violin can make. I'll be playing from the opening until the end of the development to fit within the 10 minutes for this video, and I hope you enjoy the movement as much as I do.
Well, there we are. We've heard our first competitor of the evening, Eliette Harris, playing from Prokofiev's Andante first movement in his first violin concerto. May I come to you then, Katie, first, as our only violinist, I believe, on the panel. And what did you think of that performance? Did she capture the mood at the beginning?
Well, first of all, I'd just like to sort of put in parentheses that I'm very much an amateur violinist, and I take my hat off to anybody who attempts Prokofiev, and it's something that I could never even begin to apply myself to. So, I mean, my first thing would be to congratulate Eliette on such an ambitious choice of piece. I must say, as we've said with all these musicians, you know, they are incredibly capable. We've got Eliette; she's already been at the Conservatoire at the RNCM for several years, and she's moving on to the Royal Academy, I believe. This, I thought, was a confident performance. I felt that it was extremely challenging. I think that, as she said in her introduction, she wanted to show what the violin could do, and it was a great choice of piece for that. I'm going to be picky. I had a few issues around pitch throughout, and tuning, but you know, the energy was great. And as I say, I think she's a very confident performer. So those would be my sort of headlines, if you like.
How different is it when you play this piece with an orchestra? Of course, there's a wonderful dialogue, isn't there, between the violin and the woodwinds, and we get that obviously in this instance with the piano. So it's very, very different. And how did you find the ensemble?
Well, I would imagine that possibly our resident maestro would be very, very much better qualified to answer that than I am. I was very impressed by her.
It is very hard to play a concerto with a piano accompaniment. Obviously, we understand why that was the case with Eliette, but your choice of colours as a soloist are so connected to the choice of colours that the orchestra provide, either to blend or to stick out from, that it's particularly, we're not hearing the proper piece in a way. We're hearing the violin and piano, and that makes it, I think, particularly difficult to capture the range of dynamics. Also, an orchestra has a huge range of dynamics that the soloist would naturally respond to, I think.
Yeah. It's believed that Prokofiev said that you play this piece played as though you're trying to convince someone of something. Do you think she's convinced us that she's a worthy winner? Or is it too early to ask?
It was a very honest performance. I thought she came across very sincerely in her response to the music. I agree with everything Katie was saying. For me, when she introduced the piece, she talked about how much variety the piece offered, and I felt she probably could have explored more of that, more extremes. She talked about ethereal and raw, and I completely agree with her that that's what the piece needs. I would have loved to have gone further in expressing those extreme emotions.
I had a very good time listening to Eliette, and I thought I was immediately touched by the way she played the opening, the way the melodic lines kind of melt, and the sound sort of melted with them. I thought she really captured the kind of the poetry and the lyricism. I thought it was harder when it gets more active. There's a section with a fantastic direction, narrante, telling a story, and the orchestra is very light there, but actually the piano, it just naturally makes a beefier sound, a heavier sound, and that was certainly a bit where I thought I would love to hear this. I would love to hear how she would play it with the real orchestra, because it felt a little over projected. But I mean, a great thing about hearing this online is the possibility of hearing it twice and going back to it and thinking, well, actually there is a fantastic amount of variety she's getting, from one phrase to the next, a lot of different colours. And I mean, I think there's something in the writing of the piece. There's a lot of very energetic music that can also almost sound like passage work, and it's sort of filling out space with lots of notes. And occasionally it did feel a little bit like that, but I thought mostly I felt that there was a sort of feeling of of direction and purpose behind them. So I thought really generally very captivating.
So there's plenty of contrast in that performance. I think the musical marking at the beginning of the piece is sognando, which means dreamily. So it's nice to know that she captured that emotion at the beginning and then had enough contrast throughout the piece. So great, what a wonderful way to start the competition. Well, next up is our first singer, Georgia Mae Ellis. She, I believe, is studying up in Manchester at the moment, and sadly for her, she was due to come back to Sussex this summer to work at Glyndebourne. But of course, due to the current situation, that didn't happen. So we'll sit back. She has two pieces to perform to us, one from Clemenza Di Tito and a song by Samuel Barber. So let's sit back and listen to Georgia Mae Ellis.
Hello, my name is Georgia Mae Ellis and I'm a mezzo-soprano. And I'm originally from Lawton, East Sussex, and I went to St Bede's School. That's where my love of classical music and opera began, and I knew I wanted to be an opera singer ever since I was about 10 years old. And I then went on to receive a place at the Royal Northern College of Music for a vocal studies and opera undergraduate degree. And I have also continued my master's studies there as well, so I'm about to go into my second year. I'm also hoping to audition for opera school in November, so we'll see how that goes. And I have chosen these two pieces today because they're very different. One's an aria and one's an art song, and I feel as though they really show a lot of range and some different colours and qualities in my voice. And I like that they're from two different periods, so I feel that it gives a kind of window into the kind of styles that my voice can do, and I hope that you enjoy them. The first piece is going to be De per questo from Mozart's La Clemenza di Tito, and then that will be followed by James Bridges' Oh That It Was So. So I hope that you enjoy.
So, panel, there we are. That's our first singer for the evening.
Sorry.
And what a wonderful, warm, burnish sound she makes. What did you think?
Yes, it's a very beautiful sound. And I think what I got from Georgia most of all was this kind of instrumental quality in her singing, that it's a lovely instrument, and it's a very, very even sound all over. So it's a real pleasure to listen to. I mean, Mark will probably know this better than me, because I suspect he's conducted La Clemenza di Tito. Her character, Sesto, is pleading for forgiveness, even though Sesto has actually tried to kill Tito.
She killed the wrong person, didn't she?
That's right. So there's a very special reason for singing this. And it's got to melt the heart of the listener. And it's got to make us change our mind about our verdict. And I sort of feel, watching Georgia, that she's feeling it, but I don't quite hear it yet. So I feel that this is perhaps an aspect of her musicianship that's still to develop, that I don't feel that it's yet fully dramatized. And if I'm just listening to the sound, I can't really tell what things matter most to her. Words like il tuo sdegno, you kind of expect a certain kind of passion, perhaps. I feel that it's probably there in her mind, but I just don't know that it's completely coming over yet. So that would be my reservation about her performance.
It seemed to me that she was singing in a rather confined space, and also it sounded as though she had a virtual accompanist, which makes life much more difficult than when you're communicating close by to your accompanist. Was she at a disadvantage having to do that, do you think?
Oh, well, I felt that she didn't seem at all thrown by it, and even though the piano was coming in some unexpected places as a result, I thought we absolutely got her intention. So I thought in that sense she was performing very, very confidently, and wasn't deflected by that.
Interestingly for you, Jonathan, if I may, she was set to play the role of Fanny Price in a certain opera called Mansfield Park in the summer, but in Manchester, composed by yourself, of course. Would she have made a great Fanny Price, do you think? You don't have to answer that.
No comment.
Anyway, Mark, how did you find her performance?
I thought she did amazingly well in that space. I think she was the one. Her performance probably was the most challenged by the acoustic and the absence of the pianist, and those things were not her fault. And she did amazingly well to do so well in that circumstance. But I sort of was dying to free the sound from that confined space in a way, and see, as Jonathan said, what more variety there might have been in there. I think for singers, comparing singers and instrumentalists at this age is particularly difficult, because I think you tend to come to singing later. I don't know in this particular case, of course, but you come later, and you are in much more need, I think, as a young singer, of a good relationship with your coach or whoever you're working on the song with. And from instrumentalists, the relationship with their teacher is a little bit more straightforward, I think, and you as the musician can hear yourself as a violinist or a pianist much more easily than you can as a singer. So I was sort of desperate I would love to have worked with both the singers to see what was really in there. And also doing an opera, so don't know if she's performed it or not, but not to have the benefit of a director or a dramatic context, which is sort of what Jonathan was saying. that is difficult. And when you hear a singer sing an aria, you can normally tell whether they've had those weeks of operatic process to find out the context of every word. And
yeah.
I felt she did I enjoyed the bridge song a lot more. I thought her text in both songs was really clear and very impressive, and I'm quite fussy about diction, so I was thrilled to be able to hear such well articulated, without feeling spat at, text. I felt she connected with the emotion of the bridge very well, and that for me was I found it difficult to judge the Mozart, as I said, without her having had the benefit of intensive work on it, which obviously in this year would have been very difficult.
Yeah, it was a very sincere performance, wasn't it, the bridge? I know from experience with recording that if the microphone isn't of a good quality, it's very, very difficult to get the contrast in dynamics. So, and if she was in a confined space, then maybe that didn't work in her favor. We'll see with some of the other competitors, they're in a bigger acoustic in a church or elsewhere. So it's interesting. And Katie, just a few little remarks from you for me.
Yes, I've been fascinated to listen to Jonathan and Mark's comments, because for me, absolutely, hers was the performance I wished I was sitting in a concert hall. She's got this beautiful instrument. It is a burnished, rich, glorious sound. It's a big sound, and it was squashed into that little room, squashed audibly by the microphone and by the recording process. And I just felt that we weren't hearing her at her best. I think from a communication point of view and a passion point of view, for sure, the bridge for me worked much better. And perhaps that is because it is an art song and not meant to be performed in a huge dramatic environment. I also had this sense, I don't know if any of my fellow judges felt this as well, or any of you felt this, she sort of took me back to kind of a 1950s sound. I don't know if I thought almost quite like a vintage voice. It was lovely. I enjoyed it very much, but it almost felt like she was sort of quite an old soul in a young person in 2020. You know, it felt as if we could have been listening to a recording from as I say, the 50s or 60s. It was really, really interesting, but I did feel for her, because I felt we didn't see her at her best. And clearly this is a young woman with a wonderful voice and already being recognised as somebody with a great future.
Thanks very much for all your comments. So we're going from the mezzo-soprano now to listen to soprano. This is Helen Lacey.
Good afternoon. I'm Helen Lacey, and it's a real pleasure to be submitting these videos for the Sussex Young Musician of the Year competition. I'm a soprano currently studying at the Royal Academy of Music and going into my second year from September. I myself grew up in Sussex, and I was really lucky to have some of my most formative and interesting musical experiences here as a young adult. I had many of my music lessons through East Sussex Music, and I was a member of Glyndebourne Youth Opera for 4 years. And this is what really encouraged me to go on and pursue singing seriously and to develop my voice as a teenager. The pieces I've chosen to perform for you today are Porgi Amor from Mozart's The Marriage of Figaro, followed by Who Is There to Love Me from Barber's The Hand of Bridge. I've chosen to perform these two arias because they're a really good example of the musical work I've done this year and the journey I've had at the Academy of Music. The Countess is a role I've studied all the way through the year, and I will be performing the role of the Countess in the autumn scenes of the Academy in October. Who Is There to Love Me from The Hand of Bridge is an opera I only discovered this year during lockdown, and I've really enjoyed exploring all the roles and seeing how the story fits together in such a short but interesting opera. I'd just like to say thank you to Helen Rideout, who is a local pianist from Bexhill, who's agreed to perform these arias with me here socially distanced. So a massive thank you to Helen for these recordings.
So there we are. That was Helen Lacey performing two songs, one from Mozart's The Marriage of Figaro, and then a piece by Samuel Barber. Let me come to you. What did you think of those performances then, Katie?
Well, I very much enjoyed Helen's performance, I must say, of both her songs. From the moment she started, I felt very comfortable and I was very engaged by her. I think she was aided, as we've already talked about, you said about being in a bit of a space, having the pianist there. It was easier perhaps for her to give a really convincing performance, but I thought there was great purity to her voice. I thought there was great power there as well. I enjoyed the, she said in her introduction that she'd been working for some time on the role of the Countess in The Marriage of Figaro, and you could see that, she was really living it. And I must say, when she was singing the Barber, the thing which I had thought when she was singing the Barber, when I was enjoying her great diction as well, actually, I was listening to every word, and I thought I could hear her singing Sondheim. I suddenly had that sense of she'd do a great, legit musical theatre. Well, I don't know if she'd hate me for saying that, but, but I really felt, oh my goodness, there's a voice that could go in various different directions. But no, I thought it was a very confident and very enjoyable performance.
Excellent, thank you. Jonathan?
Yeah, I think Helen, again, she's got a fantastic instrument. It's a really astonishing sound. I think it's startling because it's so clear. The intonation is so sure, so some phrases really took my breath away, particularly in the Barber when she sings about the black wings of death, and just the colour of that sound was really startling. It's kind of one of the most memorable things, I think. And it's very beautiful musical singing. I guess I sometimes wanted to feel a little bit more, and so when she sang "Do Not Die, Mother," it seemed a little casual for what was being said, but she will know the scene much better than I do. So and the kind of interior story. But so I wouldn't personally mind sometimes just a little bit more, something a bit more vivid in the moment from her characters.
Yes, yeah. The pieces, the emotions were quite similar, weren't they, in both pieces? So the Countess is feeling pretty depressed at that point as well. Yes,
but never too so depressed that she doesn't sound beautiful, which is very common thing. But it's true there wasn't a huge range. A very contrasting second piece could have shown us some other aspects of her musicianship. I wouldn't have minded hearing something with a bit more, I don't know, fire or fury, or just to show some different characteristics, different qualities.
Excellent, thanks, Jonathan. And Mark.
Yes, I enjoyed Helen's singing. Again, I agree with everything that Katie and Jonathan have said. The text was wonderful, and to be able to hear that. I wish I would have loved to have just had some time to explore, particularly the Mozart, to see whether there was greater intimacy there available, of sort of the loneliness rather than just the aloneness, I should say, really, rather than just the isn't it all awful? And also I felt, although it was wonderful to have a live piano accompaniment, again, rather similar to the Prokofiev, the choice of colours you make as a singer in that aria particularly are so connected to the sound of the orchestra that I would love to have just explored what greater range was available within a context of an orchestral accompaniment. But she clearly knew what she was singing about, and that sounds obvious, but
it always helps.
Well, to lead with the words and not the notes is what I think we're all after.
Wonderful, excellent. Well, we've heard the three ladies in our competition now, and we're going to move on to our first male competitor, one of the youngest. In fact, the two lads that we're about to hear are the youngest in the competition. Our first male competitor is James Andrews. He's from Brighton, and he's chosen to perform one piece on the organ and one on the piano. So let's sit back and enjoy James's performances.
Hello, my name's Jamie Andrews, and I'm an 18-year-old organist and pianist from Brighton. So my two pieces are very different. The first one I'm going to play on the organ, and the second on the piano. So my first piece is J.S. Bach's wonderful Fugue in A minor, BWV 543. It's a wonderful fugue in 4 parts. It's also in 6/8 time, which gives it this lovely kind of dance-like quality to it. And it builds up through like different textures. There's a really thin texture in the middle, to this wonderful climax at the end with this really explosive cadenza. It's like it just can't be held back anymore. And I'm playing this fugue on the organ of St Mary's Church in Brighton. And the organ was built at the end of the 19th century, and it's a beautiful instrument. It has some lovely sounds. It's got a few technical issues, you could say, but I really like playing it on this organ. And the acoustic of the church, I think, really adds to it and kind of brings out the polyphony in the piece. And then after that, I'm going to play on the piano in my house, the Mouvement by Pierre Sancan. So Pierre Sancan, his name really isn't known at all outside France, but he was a concert pianist in the mid-20th century who wrote a few really kind of virtuosic piano pieces. This is one of them. And it's often used as encores. But I think it's actually even though it's very virtuosic, it's kind of got this very fast, rhythmic passage work. I think it's actually got real musical substance to it. It's quite kind of, it's quite a lot like Debussy, his musical language. And then the bit I always look forward to is at the end when I get to do an arm glissando where I use my full arm. And so I always look forward to that bit. I hope you enjoy. Thank you very much.
Well, James is another performer that has suffered this summer. He was set to go out to an organ festival in France and play some of the wonderful organs in Poitiers. Of course, there's the famous Clicquot organ dating from 1791, but sadly he was unable to go. So, first of all, let's talk about his organ piece. Who'd like to talk about that piece? It's a wonderful piece, isn't it?
I particularly enjoyed the clever video work to see his feet, which, you know, that's such a hidden thrill of watching an organist, and to have, I mean, I know that's not relevant to the judging, but I just would like to say thank you for doing that, because I really enjoyed that. He's a highly intelligent musician, and I don't mean only intelligent. I heard the intelligence of his musical thought very clearly, and again, it came across to me as wonderfully sincere, and sort of allowing the organ to sing, to speak, and I felt it was a very trusting performance, but still personal. I enjoyed it very much.
He's a very confident performer, isn't he? And he really engages with the music. I mean, his whole body, normally you think of an organist sitting there, you know, they're about 6'6" and they're quite tall and thin, and they don't speak to anybody, a little bit hunched. But I mean, he was really emoting and really getting into it, wasn't he? He was wonderful. Any other comments?
I think absolutely you could see his pleasure in the music, and how he responds to those wonderful sequences, and you know they're kind of irresistible, and it's hard to make a feeling of dynamic phrasing happen on the organ in the nature of the instrument, but I absolutely felt it, and it certainly wasn't flat. I mean it's a very generous acoustic, so the sound it's in quite a wash, but you certainly feel it all, I think. And he didn't change the registration at all, which I thought was interesting. I mean, I wouldn't have minded a change of colour somewhere in the middle, just to keep the ear engaged. But absolutely, it was very felt. To be honest, I enjoyed that more than the French piece by a composer that I'd never heard of. Well, it was a pianist, he explained.
I'm so relieved you hadn't heard of him either, Jonathan. That's great. That makes me feel a lot.
Neither had I.
He eluded all my Google searches, probably because I'm spelling his name wrong. So anyway, we'll perhaps hear more about that from him later on. And actually, I think the piano in that small space was harder to record, so the actual sound, you know, again, in a concert hall, that would have been, I think, much more enjoyable. But actually, and obviously he's got fantastic dexterity, and he did both these complex pieces from memory, and you know, you feel like they're fully inhabited. I think something I would look forward to him developing later on in the piano playing is perhaps some more grace and playfulness. It's something that's a little, for what is, I think, quite a light-hearted piece. Sometimes the sound is just is a little harsh, and there's, I think, there's something there's something to explore there.
Yeah. But a performance that was full of confidence, of course, and you can tell that he enjoyed performing, couldn't you? Equally on the organ as on the piano. Katie?
You know, I really felt with James, you know, you've got this 18-year-old young man who is full of talent and full of confidence and loving life, and he wanted to show us everything that he could do, and my goodness, he really did. And whether it was on the organ with his flying feet and fingers, and I have to say, Mark, I'm completely with you. I think every organist now should always have a foot cam. I think that was absolutely splendid development for music.
They need to invest in a new set of socks then, though, wouldn't they? Not just the plain black. Yeah.
But, you know, I really did think that enthusiasm and confidence of youth was both, it served him well, but it also did him a disfavor as well, because I think I'd love to have heard him, especially on the piano, I would have loved to hear more colour, more emotion, something a little slower, a little, show some feeling. And, you know, that's so unfair because he's 18, you know, I mean, what can you do? But I just felt that he showed such wonderful virtuosity, and I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of this young man. I really am. But for me, I would have loved to have just seen something just a little bit, Ooh, just relax a touch, Jamie, and let's just hear something a little bit more soulful. And
Perhaps
that,
a little bit too much
you know,
testosterone.
I didn't want to say it, I'm glad you did, Andrew. Yeah.
I read your mind. Well, wonderful. Thanks again for those insightful comments. Wonderful. So, and now on to our final performer of the competition. This is, and I'll try and get his name right, Toril Atsalini Mashkle. He's a percussionist. He has lots of experience already. And again, he missed out on some wonderful performances. He was set to perform at the BBC Proms this year, which of course didn't happen. So let's listen to our final competitor of the evening.
Hi, I'm Toro Adeli Mashkle and I'm a percussionist. Some of you may recognize me from my performance in BBC Young Musician earlier this year, and I'm actually going to be joining the undergraduate course of the Royal College of Music in September. So the first piece I'm going to be playing is a Sanga by Kevin Volance, and Kevin Volance is a composer who takes quite a lot of source from traditional music, so from his birthplace in South Africa, but in this particular case, from Indian classical music. So there's quite a lot of very complicated rhythms in it. And to contrast this, because the mood of that piece is quite violent and practically savage, I've decided to pick The Spruce by Sibelius, which is an absolutely gorgeous, very calm piece, and which I associate a lot with snow on top of the desolate spruces in the Finnish landscape.
So, Jonathan, what did you think of that performance?
Well, I enjoyed. Actually, the Sibelius is a revelation. It was a piece I didn't know, but also I'd never thought of the marimba as a romantic instrument, and I also never thought that the marimba could sing like that. So that was, I found it very moving. Actually, I was really touched by it. By you could feel just the love he has for every note, for every phrase, and the musicality. That I think these are blocks of wood, and yet out of it is coming, well, Sibelius' image of a tree, so it's appropriately enough.
Yeah.
So that was really touching. But I think the Kevin Volan's piece, Asanga, there he really was at a disadvantage having the drums in such a small space because they simply don't resonate at all. And this is a piece that can have enormous impact. And I think in a concert hall, this performance would do, but you have to really use your imagination to think what these things will sound, because the sound is just completely dead there. And if those sounds boom and thud, they will, something quite different will happen. It was also, I was slightly taken back because he starts a little way into the piece. So that made it, I think, a little harder to connect with it straight away. You didn't quite follow where it was going. But he negotiated these, the very complex passages of drumming so skillfully, again, from memory. He sort of made it completely his own. He takes some liberties with the dynamics and the tempo, and Kevin Volans is quite demanding about those things. But actually, I always thought they were good. They were interesting choices, and so he was going against the composer's written intentions to good effect. I enjoyed that very much. I would love to hear this performed in a real concert space.
Yeah. And working out all those complex rhythms must take hours and hours and hours. It's mathematics, isn't it? I know you love experimenting with rhythm in your music, and Mark, having conducted the Shostakovich, all those angular, jagged rhythms that he invests in his music. Where do you start in something like this? Where do you start to decipher it? Mark, can I come to you?
Well, rhythm is the means. It's not the end. And I think what I loved about Toral's performance is you don't want something to be rhythmic. You want the rhythm to make you feel something else. So you know, I think the danger of if you play music that is complex rhythmically, the danger is that's your goal, is to solve that or to deliver that. That the rhythm is a tool. And in fact, it's the tool over which musicians have most control, in the sense that the notes are clearly decided by the composer, and obviously the rhythms in it are too. But how you play a rhythm is much more a reflection of your personality than how you play a pitch, actually. So control of rhythm is, I think, fundamental to how you connect your own musicianship to the audience. And I thought he did that wonderfully. I really felt he was playing the music rather than the music was being played by him. And I'm slightly tentative saying this with a composer so present, but and it'll be interesting maybe for Katie to sort of be the arbiter of preference here. But we're all trying to get a balance between the ego of the composer and the ego of the performer. And I think audiences need both, and they need them to be in serving each other in a way. And so for me, I feel I know I was listening to Toral first and foremost play the music rather than the music being played by him. And my preference is, I love that. That's what guarantees the variety in musical performance. That's why we always want to hear these pieces again and again, because they are played by the individuals who are playing them. Obviously I think we all agree the drumming needs space, but I love the Sibelius. I thought that was very drawing in, which is great for a percussion instrument to think essentially color just as much as rhythm.
It sounds like he succeeded to transport both yourself and Jonathan to those desert spruces that he talked about in Finland, which is wonderful. So, Katie, what impression did he leave on you?
You know, I think the nicest job in the world, in that I get to listen and watch musicians for a living. And I love watching the physicality of performers. And we've seen some very lively physical performances from all our soloists in this competition. But I think for me, Toral inhabited the music physically in the most convincing way. It was so easy watching him. It was so enjoyable watching him love his music. And it feels like he has found, you know, he's absolutely found the right instrument for him, hasn't he? You know, in becoming a percussionist, he's so happy there. He's so inhabiting that music. And it gave me great pleasure, great joy to watch him play. Now, I can't comment on the complexities of that first piece in anywhere near as much detail and with as much intelligence as my colleagues, but I definitely would agree I'd like to hear it in a different space, of course. But the Sibelius, to me, you know, we've talked a lot about wanting to feel touched by a performance, to feel something, to feel communication. And for me, the Sibelius was the piece amongst all the finalists today that did that. I listened rapt to that piece. I didn't know it. I did not expect it to be so beautiful in the marimba. It was, I thought, a beautiful piece of communication with his audience. And I really give him huge kudos for that.
Wonderful. Well, that concludes the performances from all our competitors this evening, and thank you so much for your amazing comments. Actually, we've gone into much more detail than I anticipated, but it's been so interesting listening to the views of you three and coming from different angles. I think we all know what we like and who we like and what sounds we like, and that's what makes music so special. I am very glad that I'm not having to adjudicate this evening or judge. I hate the word judge, actually, because it seems that you've all helped these young musicians on their way. So we're going to take some time out now and listen to Coro Nuovo. We recorded a piece over the summer, virtually. It's Thales's Canon. So while you at home listen to this, we're going to go away and have a little deliberation and conflab and try and come up with a winner if that is fair at all to pick a winner out of these 5 competitors. So we'll be back shortly.
All praise to thee, my God, this night, for all the blessings of the light. Keep me, O keep me, King of kings, lead me thine own almighty wings. Forgive me, Lord, for thy dear Son, the ill that I this day have done, that with the world, myself, and thee, I ere sleep at peace may be. Teach me to live that I may dread the grave as little as my bed. Teach me to die, that so I may rise glorious at the judgment day. Oh, may my soul on thee repose, and with sweet sleep mine eyelids close. Sleep that may me more vigorous make to serve my God when I awake. Oh, may my soul on thee repose, and with sweet sleep my eyelids close. Sleep that may me more vigorous make to serve my Praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise Him, all creatures here below. Praise Him above the heavenly hosts. Praise God, Son, and Holy Ghost.
So welcome all you competitors. Thank you so much for entering the competition. I hope you enjoyed performing as much as we've enjoyed listening to you. It really has been a thrilling competition, and you've caused us a headache actually, trying to decide on order. But to me and to the panel, you're all winners. And having you here and having the opportunity to listen to you has been absolutely wonderful. I'm not going to dwell anymore, but I would like now to hand over to the most capable hands of Katie Derham, who is going to announce the winner or winners, if that's all right.
Oh, well, hello, all of you. And can I just echo Andrew's comments there, how much we've enjoyed listening to your performances. Mark and Jonathan and I have had the most interesting, but as Andrew was saying, tricky discussion. And but we've really, really enjoyed seeing this enormous potential, and all of it from Sussex. It's a treat indeed, I must say. You're all extremely talented, capable, competent, and confident musicians, and that's joyful to see. As somebody who, as I've said in the past, you know, I've got the best job in the world. I listen and watch talented musicians for a living, and you know, you give me enormous hope for the future that you guys are just already so capable. So thank you. It was difficult to obviously compare singers with percussionists, violinists, organ players. You know, it's not an easy job. So, you know, this is not an exact science. The way we've decided to divvy everything up is that there'll be 3 joint third places. In the end, in the second place, we have decided to give the second prize to somebody whose performance immediately captivated us with the quality of her voice. That's a clue. And we were also extremely interested and inspired by the plans that she has said that she would, you know, be putting this prize to use to really be proactive with her career. But really, as I say, for the captivating qualities, the purity of her voice, we'd like to give a second place to Helen. So congratulations to Helen. And in first place, the performance that for us touched us with the musicality, with the fact that this musician really sort of got inside the music, made the performance his own. We felt that he communicated very powerfully with us, the audience. So we would like to announce that the winner of this year's Sussex Young Musician is Torrell.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations to all of you.
Well done.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Katie. We're also joined, as you can see, by one other member here on the screen. And without him, the competition wouldn't be possible. He is our main sponsor. His name is Neil Pescott, and he is from Tradoke, based in mid-Sussex, in Chailey. And Neil, I believe you have a little envelope, or rather a large envelope in your pocket. Is that right?
I certainly do.
Ah,
Indeed.
very good. With the
There
name winner on it.
Well, that covers all bases.
It certainly does. So we're going to virtually, if you could present that that envelope, if you would, to Torrell, Neil, that would be greatly appreciated.
I can't actually see Toro, but yeah, we're gone. But there, I can now. There we are, Toro. The winner's check, and many congratulations, and it's a privilege that we're very busy in these difficult times, and are able to continue to contribute to the bursary. So we wish you well, and onwards and upwards with your musical career. And it was a delight to listen to you all. Absolute delight, yes.
Thank you so much, Neil. That's greatly, greatly appreciated from Coro Nuovo. So I'm going to interview now Torrell and say congratulations to all of you, first of all. Wonderful. Congratulations, Helen, on coming, getting the second prize, and to you, especially Torrell, for becoming the winner of the Sussex Young Musician of the Year 2020. How does it feel to have that title?
Well, like, I've noticed my heart rate has gone up dramatically. Honestly, I just feel very humbled, honestly, and very valued, and I'm just really happy to have received this. And also, you know, I got to see a couple snippets of other people's competition pieces, and you were all amazing as well. So yeah, I mean, thank you so much. It just means so much to me, and especially what it means is that I'm going to be able to actually comfortably finance my studies now. Although I've been finding a bit of difficulty at the moment, now I feel a lot more confident, a lot more relaxed to be able to carry on, you know, trying to get an excellent tuition in London. So thank you again.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Torrell. Thank you so much.
All of us on the panel felt that you were, all of you, going to make a wonderful contribution to the musical life of our country and the wider world. And I think we're all really looking forward to hearing everything you're going to do next.
And you shouldn't be despondent at this time. If it has proved anything, it is that people are desperate for music. And we don't know when that's going to be accessible for everybody. But I think the for everybody to realize how much they've missed performing and how much they've missed listening is actually a positive that we should all feel, I wouldn't say grateful for, but to reset our love of music. And I mean everybody's, audiences as well as performers, is something you should hold on to as an exciting development for whenever that development can show itself.
Yeah, I'd like to second that. I don't think there's ever been a greater need for music. The difficulty now is that we know it exists and we know what has been, and we're just all yearning to go back to that normality and to be able to perform again. So keep going, because we will come out of it and there will be opportunities, but don't give up. That's the main thing. It's easy to give up and say, well, you know, where am I going to go? Don't give up. Keep going. Keep striving to be better. Keep striving to find new things. Even in the old pieces that you play, look for something new. And you'll go back to them, I'm sure. I don't need to say this, but you'll probably go back to them in 2, 3, 4, 5 years' time and find something completely different as you develop as musicians as well. So just keep going, and we'll get there. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Max. Thanks, Jonathan.
Pleasure. Thank you all.
Really great morning.
Thank you, everybody.